I always say in the financial world, stop trying to become somebody else financially because you can only be who you are. Financially, we have all this shame, blame, guilt, and judgment. Lynette, you even said that right before we got on. You're like, hey, yeah, let's talk, and because whenever I talk to people, I trigger all the blame, all the guilt, all the judgment, and shame that we've got behind the scenes. And it's like, but why? Because you're not doing it somebody else's way. And what I love about human design is you can only do it your way because you're not going to change the way you're wired. And human design gets you to totally understand your personal wiring. And then we got to get you to just love the shit out of it because
Mhm.
that's who you are, right? Welcome to another Awaken Your Wealth. I am Julie Murphy. As you guys know, I've spent the last 25 years plus as a financial planner, and I have realized we either work things out and act it out through our money, through our health, and through our relationships. And so today I am so happy to have Lenette here because sometimes we don't know how to actually create what we want to create in our lives because we've ignored our own hearts for so long that it's like, anyone feeling these days like you can't really tune in to what it is that you want or who you are because the way you've plugged into the world is not working anymore because it's been on your ego or your personality or your trauma rejections from your childhood. So I want to remind you guys to please hit that subscribe button, like, and notification bell because we're here to help you create a life that you love. So Lenette, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting to be able to share human design. And it's so interesting because I was speaking with another friend that does Reiki and human design as well. And she was telling me that she found some study saying that like only, I want to say 18% of the population knows about human design. And even a smaller percentage of those people that know about it are applying it to their life.
So give everybody, so I had heard of human design, oh gosh, from one of my mentors, probably 8 or 9 years ago. And she's like, you're a manifestor generator. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but sounds right. And I've come to learn, first of all, like you're now the third or fourth person that I have met that actually does these appointments with people to help them understand more of their own customized design and who they are and how they plug in the world. And it makes everything just makes sense as to why you are the way you are. Because I always say in the financial world, stop trying to become somebody else financially because you can only be who you are. Financially, we have all this shame, blame, guilt, and judgment. Lenette, you even said that right before we got on. You're like, hey, yeah, let's talk, and because whenever I talk to people, I trigger all the blame, all the guilt, all the judgment, and shame that we've got behind the scenes. And it's like, but why? Because you're not doing it somebody else's way. And what I love about human design is you can only do it your way because you're not going to change the way you're wired. And human design gets you to totally understand your personal wiring. And then we got to get you to just love the shit out of it because that's who you are, right?
Absolutely.
So tell everybody a little bit more about the human design because I really think it's an amazing tool.
Well, how I like to explain it to people that I sit with is that it's your energetic blueprint, and it just is, and it's not even a belief. It's the proof. It's you and on this chart, and it has just all these beautiful like circuits and channels and gates and highlights in your life of who you really are and what you're here to do in this time that you're here in this incarnation body. We like to say our meat suit. But you're right. A lot of people are born and then, your parents do the best they can.
Right.
They want the best for you. They think that you need to, like be in a certain preschool by a certain age already. And it's just this pressure to conform to what society says, like this is what we need to be. With human design, like, this is where I would love to get a lot of parents on board with younger
Mm.
children to be able to parent their children in their design, because
Well,
you
and
get
I will
to.
tell you, I remember reading years ago, and then I did a lot of work with Deepak Chopra through the years,
Okay.
and he wrote in one of his books, as well as I heard him say this in person. He goes, "Could you imagine the world and what it would be like if our education system actually focused on everybody's strengths as opposed to telling them you're weak here, here, and here, so fix it and get your grades up?"
Absolutely.
And Deepak said it a lot nicer than that. I'm a little bit more direct than
I
Deepak, but
know, but you're so right though, because school is so one style fits all, and then
right.
they do these standardizing testing, and then I know for experience with my son when he was in school, he would not want to raise his hand and ask questions, and it's so interesting because these kids are conditioned to think that they are supposed to know all the things.
Mm,
And everyone is wired so different to learn
right.
different ways. Some people have, in human design, you even have people who are more left brained, and that's active brain, and then you have people who are passive, who are right brained. My son's right brained. I'm right brained as well. I learned from interacting with people, videos, storytelling. I
Right.
cannot sit and look at a book and take notes. It
But
just.
look at the I was just talking with somebody the other day who had said they have all this internal pain from their childhood because they were like shamed because they were an auditory learner, and
Mhm.
they back then, because he's in his 50s now, and he said, you know what, um I tried so hard and I could just never produce in this system that was set up. So it's a lifetime of thinking that you're not smart and that you're not good, and because you didn't fit in the box that was
Mhm.
created years ago from an educational system. And I found it interesting because I had just gone through something with my daughter at school where the teacher's just like, "Oh yeah, she's an auditory learner, and so for auditory learners this is what we do." And but it's not done in a way that they're like bad or wrong or inefficient.
Yes.
And I think that's the beauty of what you're saying, so I'll let you continue.
Oh no, it's okay. Yeah, it's just for me. I came across human design just 2 years ago. I had been invited to I was supposed to go to Bali, and COVID happened, so then that got canceled, and I kind of
Mm.
was just like, oh, whatever. I'm just gonna not do anything this summer. And then a friend of mine, had mentioned, hey, I'm going to a retreat in Sedona. Do you want to go? And I had no idea it was a human design retreat. And I said, sure, I'll go to a retreat in Sedona. And so I show up, and it was so
Bali
interesting.
reminds me of the eat love pray. It's like,
Yes.
oh, you're going off. So were you doing something like that? You were going to go find yourself on some level?
Well, I had actually been doing Kundalini teacher training, and I was
Mm.
going to be going with a group, and I had actually just gone through a divorce. So it was
So
it
you
was a lot of
were right,
it
yeah.
was it was a lot of things, and so it just turns out that spirit had other ideas for me with this human design retreat. And like I
Okay,
show up.
that's
It's
a beautiful thing, right? So you surrendered. What I love about what you just said is you surrendered into whatever rose because you were being guided somewhere else. That's going with the flow. That's present moment
and
awareness. That's
looking
beautiful.
back, like I was so disappointed about the Bali trip being canceled, but it was like I'm learning now and I still to this
Mm,
day, have to sit and be like, okay, I got to surrender. I can't,
I know.
control. It's not like what is I'm designed for either, or any of us really are. We're just here to like flow. But like I went to this retreat, and it was so interesting because I had no idea. And then the human design reader was there, and she ended up becoming my mentor. But
Oh.
she says, oh, come sit with me and I'm gonna do your chart. And I was like, oh, okay. And so we sit, and she shows me my chart, and I just look at it because I was like, this makes no sense to me. And she's like, I'm gonna make it make sense. So I'd never met this woman, and she started telling me things about myself. And I
Mm.
was like, are you crazy? Like it was mind blowing. And I was there for 4 days. So in that 4 days, what they did at the retreat is they they interacted with you in your design. And so everybody, like I'm a generator, so I'm designed to respond. So I was asked a lot of yes or no questions.
That's awesome. And you probably felt great because you were in exactly the situation where you thrive.
Absolutely. And nobody was shamed. And like one day we were all going to do different, like we planned an activity, but then it got kind of like where people were wanting to do different things. So she sat us all down in a circle and came to everybody and asked everybody, like, Lenette, do you want to go hiking? And then I was like, yes, And then she asked a projector, what do you want to go? And it was just interesting to see everybody struggle too with like not wanting, because a lot of people struggled, and then she came back and asked, why are you struggling? And a lot of people's answer was, because I don't want to upset other people with my decision, because we're conditioned to just go with
Right.
the flow of what everyone else wants us to do. And
Right.
so that's another beautiful thing about human design, is you get to step into this deconditioning process, because we're so conditioned our whole life to people please and to do all the things that other people want us to do. Or we think that's what we want to do. Because like I said, parents or society, like parents, you got to go to college. Or everybody says you need to get married, you need to go to, you need to have a family.
How about you have to get the vaccine, or you have to wear a mask? Like there's so many examples that and I certainly don't want to get into debate of what's going on pandemic wise or politically.
Yeah, I could say a lot about it as well. It's a little bit
Right.
something
And
that
to me, I really feel that what you just touched on is a lot of what we're being called to do is and I talk about this stepping into, so every person has masculine energy and feminine energy. And when I apply that to finance in my world, that's the difference between finance. Numbers are always left brain logical and analytical. And my industry is forever sitting there going, hey, but this is how you should manage your portfolio, blah, 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 blah. But years ago, I started, before I wrote my first book, The Emotion Behind Money, I started to realize, oh my gosh, like we forgot the human component in finance. And that's the feminine aspect, because the masculine is the mind. And logically, I can tell you exactly the most financial effective thing to do. But your heart may be going,
absolutely.
Which is why I think so many people have a disconnect with their money, because we've been teaching it from a perspective of you have to just do the right thing or you are bad and you are wrong. And so we're here to, one of the things I'd love for people to get out of this today is that, and I always call it, you have to let your freak flag fly. You have to be exactly who you are, and there is no problem with that.
Exactly. So, and for me, and I will claim my age, I don't care. I'm 48, and I've been doing this 2 years. So it's like, I'm still in the deconditioning process, but I finally am starting to step into who I am. But when I'm doing it, I have my old self wanting to pull me back and
absolutely.
And hold me.
You built these muscles in this way of how to plug in the world. Now you're building. I would say that I've watched so many of my clients go through this process where it's like you plugged in from your survival mechanisms, from your personality, from the conditioning from your childhood. And when you start to realize going, wow, I don't know if that's really true for me anymore, because you're starting to wake up. And we had to, before, people would call that the your midlife crisis. And it's not a crisis. It's actually your personality is no longer leading the boat. It's your soul is going, hello, this is why you came here. Let's shift this. And so tell people, like, as you went to that human design, and you've spent the last few years now diving deep into that and you're deconditioning, what has shifted now that you know your design? Like, how did that like crack you open to go into more of that space?
So what shifted is, and I mean, it's a little it's not challenging, but to explain it without a chart, there's 9 centers. And so you have defined and undefined centers. And in those centers are different numbers, which are gates. And those are all different aspects of your gifts and things that you bring to the table. So for me, it was really more of looking at the undefined centers, the open ones. of what I was taking in around me. So I have an undefined solar plexus, which is your emotional center. My whole life I have, and I now can identify when an emotion belongs to me. And I
Oh,
used to not be able to do that. I would get hijacked with
so you're highly
every.
empathic.
Yes.
Mm.
And so my son is emotional authority, which means he has a defined solar plexus and he tends to put out. And then my ex-husband as well was emotional authority.
Mm.
And when I look back, I was a lot just mirroring the emotion. He would come
Oh,
to me and
wow.
say, "What is wrong? Why are you acting like this? Why are you?" And it was him that was, and I would sit there and I would go, "No, I'm good. I'm okay." But it was just me mirroring back. So
Right.
for me, I have been able to, like any open center, like even it was so funny. I want to piggyback when you were talking about money, because in human design, there's the heart center, which is like your will center, your ego.
Right.
And if you have a undefined ego, it is all about proving yourself. And so you see a lot of people with undefined ego in their chart, which I have one.
Mhm.
You tend to want to prove. Like, I got to have the better job. I have to have the better car. Just everything is just proving yourself. And then what's interesting is people with defined identity, like with the ego, they're here to prove themselves.
Right.
So it's not like they just do the things. My son has a defined ego too. So it's interesting to see these things play out in front of me. And but yeah, it's just those open centers are people like to say, "Oh, it's not fun because you're taking in things." When you're aware of it, you get to
You don't
sit.
take them in.
You don't, and you get to sit
Right.
and be like,
Right.
observe more than anything.
Because you
So
increase your awareness. So to me, it's about, I always tell my kids, I'm like, hey guys, I'm just teaching this because I just want to increase your awareness. Because once you're more aware of something, then you may or may not make different decisions. And
absolutely.
financially speaking, when I'm with clients, I'm like, one of the second step in the process that I work clients through is accepting the reality that you've created financially.
Hmm.
And because without that acceptance, then you can't actually move on because you have to create the emotional space that you're okay with exactly the version of your finances that you have, because that's all you have. Like, no different than
Hmm.
your human design. Like, you've created this financial world for yourself that you currently have. And so you have to accept it. And in that acceptance, you accept it by actually choosing to be aware of your financial situation, not opening the envelopes or just continuing to slide the credit card. You're not really sure exactly where the balance is. It just keeps going up and down, right? But it's no different than your awareness of that. Do you have an open solar plex or not? Right? It's the same
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
And but it's about just loving the shit out of who you are. No
Yes,
matter whether it's your
absolutely.
money or your design, your human design. Like, it doesn't matter which part. You just have to absolutely love every ounce of it, because that's when you expand and grow and get exactly what you want in life. That's what I
Absolutely.
Mm.
And a
So
little
Lynette,
messy.
how does somebody reach you to if they want to do their human design chart and have a coach help them through that? How do they find you?
So right now I do not have a website, which I want to work on, but I do have an Instagram, so I can be reached on my Instagram or even my Facebook.
Mhm.
And my Instagram is my name, so it's Lenette. It's Lenette 06, and then on Facebook it's just Lenette Michaels.
Beautiful. And
And you
thank you
can
so
you
much
can
for
send
sharing.
requests. Yeah.
And I absolutely look forward to us getting the next place. And just want to remind everybody to hit that subscribe button, notification bell, because the next time Lynette and I are on, then you can find out. All right. And we will talk to you all soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for
Bye.
having me.
You're welcome.